This is the new 7th gen iPad mini and it's basically identical to the Mini 6 which came out all the way back in 2021. It has last year's A17 Pro chipset and just an IPS LCD display instead of OLED. Starting at $499, which is only $100 less than the iPad Air, the iPad Mini 7 might seem like a tough sell. But with some low-key upgrades and a reality check on how I actually use my tablets, I'll argue that this is actually the best iPad purchase for me and for most people out there. If the iPad Pro that you bought a couple years ago for close to $1,000 or more is collecting dust on a shelf somewhere, definitely watch the rest of this video and hear me out. First off, the iPad mini is just super convenient from its form factor alone. It's so small, a lot of people can even grip it in one hand. It can fit into almost any bag or purse, and at just 293 grams, you're not carrying anything heavy either. And if you do end up not using it, it won't take up much space on a shelf, and it can fit into any drawer. Bezels are not the slimmest, but the flat design still fits that modern Apple look, so it still looks clean and premium even if this purple color isn't my favorite. I'm not the biggest fan of the fingerprint sensor being situated at the top, but in landscape orientation, the buttons are really easy to reach and click, so I like that. As a home tablet or secondary device, a compact device like this is just perfect, especially considering how little space and weight it'll take in my backpack even next to a laptop. On paper, the display here is nothing crazy, 8.3-inch IPS LCD, 1488 by 2266 resolution, up to 500 nits of peak brightness, and just a standard 60Hz refresh rate. I really wasn't expecting much since it's basically the same display as the Mini 6, but it's surprisingly a really nice display. For an IPS LCD panel, the contrast ratio is surprisingly really good. When I first set it up and didn't know the specs, I really thought this was an OLED panel because of how nice the dark colors looked. It's not the most vibrant display I've seen, but the colors look great on here and it's not a boring neutral color profile for sure. 60Hz on iPadOS actually looks perfectly smooth and responsive to me, feels more like a 90Hz Android phone. The jelly scrolling that was really noticeable on the Mini 6 is now a bit better on the Mini 7, even without any big upgrades, and even with the small size, the Mini's display is perfectly big enough and looks awesome for my YouTube and Netflix streaming. Thanks to the aspect ratio, there's actually not much letterboxing for 16:9 content, so YouTube videos look especially nice on here and it's like a notebook size for reading. What helps is the excellent stereo speakers, which Apple always manages to nail down. Really high volume coming from this little thing, and there's actually very little distortion even at higher levels. Some decent bass here with really crisp vocals. Having a podcast on either through Spotify or YouTube sounds really nice here.
But you don't think it's possible that one of these CEOs will just decide it's not worth it anymore? That like faced with the prospect of...
So with the really great set of display and speakers, for something you'll just have next to you while doing some chores, the Mini is a really nice fit. But the only slight complaint I have about the Mini is iPadOS. I mean, iPadOS is perfectly fine and it works like how you would expect. Really smooth, multitasking using the dock is really easy. With iPadOS 18, you can finally put app icons anywhere on the home screen. Widget placements are still a bit awkward and iPhone-only apps like Instagram still look dumb on here, but those aren't really issues specific to the Mini, so not a huge deal. My only real complaint is that iPadOS isn't really scaled well for the Mini. Things like the dock and app icon sizes are fine, but a lot of the UI elements like corner buttons and swipe actions seem to have a much smaller touch range on the Mini. Everything just feels a lot smaller than it needs to be. Maybe my fingers are just drier or bigger than most people, but yeah, I find myself often missing taps and apps not responding to me as accurately as I want them to. That's my personal main issue. There are other things to consider like Stage Manager not being available on the Mini and only supporting screen mirroring when connecting to a monitor, but as someone using this as a secondary type of device, that's a non-issue for me. Plus, for users like me, you can still use the Mini to sidecar as a second display for your Mac, so that's still awesome. With a chipset basically identical to the one on the iPhone 15 Pro series and a substantial upgrade to 8 gigs of RAM, the Mini 7 obviously just blazes through anything you throw at it, especially when using this for browsing and entertainment. Bluetooth is super quick to connect to my earbuds and controller. I multitask all the time here with slide over apps and split screen with no issues or slowdowns, but if you are trying to use this as a gaming machine, there are some things to know. Of course, this will just fly through most popular mobile games and Apple Arcade games like you would expect with an iPhone Pro series phone, and since game streaming like Xbox Cloud Gaming all depends on your network, the Mini won't break a sweat. But for those console quality games now on the App Store like Assassin's Creed Mirage or Death Stranding, it's still a very playable experience, but the Mini isn't going to be blazing through those. These games will mostly be locked at 30 FPS with a few minor frame drops here and there, and the Mini does get pretty warm. It's still amazing you can play these games on here, so this isn't a knock against the Mini, it's just an FYI to manage your expectations. On the other hand, the battery life did exceed my expectations. With a relatively small 5000 mAh battery, I didn't expect the same high standards of iPad battery life like the bigger models. But this thing can definitely go all day. I can average about 7 to 9 hours of screen on time when using it just straight on all day or over 2 days. What's really cool is the standby time, which is really important for an iPad because a lot of people like me can go days or even weeks without touching their iPad. iPad. In my experience, the Mini 7 lasted just over a week of me not touching it at all. After about 7 days of not touching it, it was still alive with about 5% left. Really impressive, and it's reassuring that you don't need to babysit this thing. As for charging, the Mini 7 maxes out at 20 watt charging. That means about 1 hour to go from 0 to 70% and about 2 hours to go from 0 to 100. Not great, especially if you're in a rush, so I hope the next Mini can have faster charging. So putting everything together, should you buy the iPad Mini 7? If you're like me that doesn't use their iPad as a laptop or for school and you just use it as an entertainment tablet that's secondary to your actual laptop, I think the iPad Mini 7 is the perfect fit for you. And especially with the base model now providing 128 gigs of storage instead of 64 gigs, the $500 price makes sense considering that you'll likely use it for a span of 4 years or longer. I got mine for just $420 thanks to an $80 coupon on Amazon for this purple variant. So those are all my thoughts about the 7th gen iPad mini. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my thoughts here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.